I would like to call to order today's meeting of the State of Nevada Board of Prison Commissioners for Monday, January 24th, 2022 at 10 a.m. to order. If I could ask the clerk to take the roll, please.
Hello, my name is Danielle. I'll be taking roll call. Governor Sisolak.
Here.
Secretary of State Sagowski.
I'm here.
Attorney General Aaron Ford.
Here.
Governor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And moving on to item number 2, public comment. This is the first time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item that is on today's agenda. We're only taking public comment right now on items on the agenda. Please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes. So when you get up, you can mention which item you're speaking on. So let's start with Las Vegas. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Barbell Warren. BARBELWARREN. I'm here with Return Strong, Families United for Justice of the Incarcerated. I will direct my comments to the Deputy Director of Operations.
Okay, which item are you speaking on?
In item number 7, I believe
Okay.
it was my lucky number, as it pertains towards operations. My son was scheduled to be released into the custody of PNP last Thursday, January 20th. 2 days prior to his release on January 18th, he was transported from one facility to another. Several days prior to being transported, he had mentioned to me that he and numerous others were feeling very sick. No COVID testing was provided before the transport. Upon arriving at the other facility, he tested positive, and so did the other 3 that he traveled with. This is the second time he has tested positive within your care, and I blame Nevada Department of Correction due to negligence that he has it again. He is now quarantined at Southern Desert Correctional Center. His story is not unique. Many versions of the same story have been reported to Return Strong since the start of the pandemic. The insanity is that in nearly 2 years, apparently nothing has been learned on how to better operate the prison during a pandemic. You are still transferring people between facilities during an outbreak and combining people who have tested negative for COVID on trains with people who are being moved from a symptomatic facility, who were ill, and put them on a train and dump them yet into a third facility. If people are required to quarantine, the simple solution is to do testing prior to transfers. We understand the need for quarantine people who are sick and who would be going to a community setting. But this is not always the case. My son is coming home to his own home. He would be able to quarantine for himself. When they were moved, they left their belongings behind because they were leaving for good. They have no clothes now, no food, their books are frozen, and now they're quarantined for 10 days when the recommendation by the CDC is 5 days. In addition, it is a nightmare trying to get clear, truthful information. When I called PNP, they said it's NDOC's policy that they won't release him. When I call NDOC, they say it's PNP. The entire process is a disgrace, and everyone, not just Director Daniels, should be not mortified. Yes, Director Daniels is in charge of prisons, but Governor Sisolak, Madam Secretary, and Attorney General Ford, you are the eyes and ears of the Department of Nevada Correction to hold them accountable, and we expect that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Faith Adkisson, ADKISSON. My comments today relate to agenda item number 10, prison industries. It is the public belief and understanding that prison industries and Silver State Industries are statutorily separated. Silver State Industries is wholly funded with taxpayer dollars and intended to provide vocational and rehabilitative programming for as many inmates as possible. In contrast, Prison Industries is funded and operated by private contractors with department oversight, where the contractor's investment in the inmate's training provides for a more permanent position for the inmate. It is my understanding only one Prison Industries contractor operates in our prisons. It is known as a playing card correlating contractor. We support an effort to increase private contractor or Prison Industries operations. Also, this board should limit the number of years an inmate may fill a position with Silver State Industries. This would be done in order to provide equity and access to taxpayer-funded programs for as many inmates as possible. Rehabilitation through programs is tied to success upon release. It also promotes a healthy prison atmosphere. Regulations preventing participation in vocational and rehabilitative programs only serves to undermine the public's interest. This is especially true when considering camp and transitional housing. All inmates with a parole date will likely be released and should be afforded equitable access to camp and transitional housing. Lastly, related to the agenda item number 12, Inspector General, regulations that are adopted without consideration of 233B provisions are the proximate cause of most of these problems, including camp participation. The public record is clear. These violations have been reported. The public has an interest in being informed as to what action the IG's office has taken. Please provide a public report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Sonia Williams, Williams. I am now an activist with Return Strong after my loved one, Eric Newman, died at High Desert State Prison a little over a month ago. I would like to discuss the horrific medical care and compassionate release process that we have experienced. I want to be clear that while I am starting his story in June of 2021, it began 2 years prior. Unfortunately, I don't have time to tell you the whole story in 3 minutes or less, and no one really has cared to hear it. So this is what I'm forced to do. First, Eric was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer by an emergency room doctor at Sunrise Hospital in late June. In early July, I began my endless email campaign on the hunt for someone to inquire with as to the compassionate release process. Rhonda Larson directed me to review the administration regulations for the process, but I still did not get any direction as to the application or a point of contact, or was given any assistance, period. So much for family services, huh? I should note that every single person I spoke with in July directed me to the medical director's office or to Eric's caseworkers. You should know there is no caseworker for inmates that are housed in the infirmary, and no one ever answers or calls back or responds to emails from the medical director's office. It was like a vicious circle. It wasn't until I contacted Denise at the Pardons Board, which is who the governor's office referred me to, that I made any headway. Denise was amazing. She got me a contact name and email address to Holly and OMD, and poof, I was finally able to submit a compassionate release application on behalf of Eric in mid-July. By August, I still had not heard anything. Holly assured me the application had been submitted, and they were waiting for a second opinion letter from an outside doctor confirming Eric's diagnosis. But Eric was telling me that they had canceled his appointments and they weren't taking him to his appointments. Again, I was on a vicious, endless circle of phone calls trying to get answers on how to get a second opinion letter if NDOC would not take him to his appointments. On August 9th, I found Return Strong, and on August 13th, they submitted a second compassionate release request to the NDOC with a second diagnosis letter written by a RN licensed in Nevada who had reviewed his case and confirmed he met the conditions for compassionate release policy. Neither Return Strong or I received any confirmation of receipt from NDOC. September and October passes with no word, and daily phone calls to the medical directors, administration, OMD, family services, wardens, nothing. Nobody bothered to answer. During this time, I am fighting with his oncologist to write another diagnosis letter, but he states he's afraid of NDOC and of being sued. So he wouldn't write the letter. With the help and pressure of Return Strong, on behalf of Eric, the doctor finally submitted.
Sorry, 30 seconds.
I don't even know where I'm at. On November 9th, I received an email from Holly stating that NDOC had approved Eric's application and PNP would be contacted us. A month later, on December 9th, PNP told us Eric had been approved and was to be released on December 15th. Then the next day, on December 10th, PNP notified us that NDOC failed to notify the county commissioners, and there was now a 45-day hold on Eric's release. 3 days later, Eric died in High Desert State Prison. That's 3.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Adkison. My comments today relate to agenda item number 12.
Sorry, could you pull the mask above your nose, please?
My comments today relate to agenda item number 12. Over the course of the last 15 months, I've reported improper governmental conduct by the department related to the abuse of offender
Sorry,
classification.
it's not above your nose.
Oh,
Thank you.
related to the abuse of the offender classification system. As a result of the department's improper action, falsified public records are being generated and relied upon by the public, state, and federal authorities. Representations made by the department related to the category of felony conviction are then relied upon by the Nevada Board of Parole Commissioners in order to take action related to parole. The resulting records produced designate NRS 193165 as a felony offense, resulting in a conviction of a Category F felony. As we all know, there is no Category F felony in Nevada. The Board of Parole Commissioners issued a letter dated December 14, 2021 to my husband, Michael Adkison, stating that the NDOC enters a category of felony for the board's use. Admittedly, when the department treats NRS 193165 separate and distinct, there is no conviction available. NDOC is compelled by law to return the inmate to the county jail. No citizen may be imprisoned without a conviction. However, as shocking and impossible as it seems, NDOC officials unilaterally legislate a new category of offense, a Category F. The production of a public record along with this admitted practice violates the public trust and too many laws to list. I have submitted proof of this record along with these with these comments to this board, available to the public upon request. Governor, the time for the board to address this is coming to an end. My husband and I have tirelessly worked to provide you the opportunity to take action. Sadly, the department has done this for years by developing an offender index code and severity table without oversight. There is literally no single person better informed on this issue than Michael Adkison. We ask this board to consider these comments to serve dual purposes to include an official complaint. Please direct the Investigator General to make contact with Michael Adkison, back number 84280, at Northern Nevada Correctional Center for follow-up. Please see the attached document showing Category F felony. Thank you in advance.
Anyone else?
I'm referring to item number 7. My name is Christy Covello, Kovello. I'm here as an activist with Return Strong and to express my concerns and anger regarding the current conditions of prisons across Nevada, especially regarding the most basic of the main conditions. So I guess this would fall under Director Daniels or Operation Discussions. I'd like to start by reading the mission of NDOC as stated on their website. It is a mission of Nevada Department of Corrections to protect society by maintaining offenders in safe and humane conditions while preparing them for successful reentry back into society. What would you consider safe and humane conditions? What conditions are required by the Eighth Amendment to be cruel and unusual? Lack of heat in the winter, lack of air conditioning during the heat wave, lack of food, going to bed hungry every day, spoiled, rotten food. Legally, they must receive 2 hot meals per day and 1 sack lunch. I'm going to share a letter from a woman at FWMCC. And for the record, this is one of dozens of letters that we've received over the last month regarding the abuse and inhumane conditions there. She writes, "Dear Return Strong, we are at FMWCC and we went on quarantine. Well, ever since we went on quarantine, we have not been getting fed hardly any food. I know we've made mistakes in life, but that doesn't mean we should be hungry. I'm hoping someone cares enough to do something. The whole prison is hungry. My family is aware and they're sending money, but the officers or caseworkers haven't been handling the canteen orders or mailed correctly. So I haven't gotten canteen and can't feed myself. They give us 2 pieces of small bread and 1 egg, 1 pint of milk for breakfast. They give us 2 pieces of small bread and 1 small pack of peanut butter and 2 jellies for dinner. We got 1 small hot lunch, but it's so small, it doesn't even fill a bowl of food. The girls, inmates, are literally hungry all the time. This has been going on for 3 weeks now. We need someone to look into this situation and help us. A lot of us have done grievance forms, but they usually try and find a way to throw them out. I hope somebody will look into this and see what we are being fed so this can stop. It hurts to be hungry. We're not getting enough food at this facility. Hunger is a reality in all of Nevada prisons. Hot dinners that are being served between 1 and 3 p.m. and people locked on, so there's no food again until approximately 14 hours after their last meal. The fact is that punishment for their crime is their loss of freedom, not their loss of humanity. If the people who are designated with the responsibility of overseeing the prisons refuse to do so, you are morally and ethically responsible. Enough is enough, and we won't go away until this problem is corrected. We are begging you to initiate an independent investigation into NDOC and bring in the National Guard to fill the staffing gaps. Bala versus the State of Idaho Department of Corrections. 1, lack of staffing is an excuse for not meeting the 8th Amendment rights regarding conditions of confinement. Thank you, and I hope you'll do something for these people. They're very hungry. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Carol. Okay, so I'm calling in, I'm talking about item number 4.
Okay.
Normally, many people supplement their meals with commissary over the past year, but NDOC has recently implemented store restrictions as low as $50 every 2 weeks. The state vendor shortages and the inability of staff to deliver commissary packages. Store restrictions are so severe that people are barely able to purchase necessary items to supplement the lack of food provided by NDOC, as well as stamps, batteries, envelopes, writing supplies. Another violation. Haley State Prison doesn't even have a store right now and have been moved to packages every month, which on the surface seems plausible, except it takes 3 to 4 weeks to actually receive the package after it is ordered, and packages don't even offer many necessary items that people were able to get from the store, and as soon as they moved to a monthly package. NDOC raised the prices in order to increase their commission that is part of the KEEF contract that provides store and commissary items. Per the contract, KEEF can only raise their prices once a year in September, but Nevada gets kickbacks as well as on what they sell. We are not missing the fact that NDOC restricted store availability, which impacted the amount that they were selling and by default their profit. They have raised the price 7 times over the past months to ensure that they are still making money off the backs of families already trying to manage life during the pandemic. Not only are they starving our loved ones, but they are also raping families again, just like they did last year with the deductions. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else before I close public comment in the South?
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having this meeting. Mercedes Maharis, for the record. I'm a Nevada chaplain, and I'm a member of the Nevada Silver-Haired Legislative Forum, Senate District 3. I'm concerned today with operations on your agenda. I would like to send you a little bit late a chart that I'm making, but in the past 3 years, here are the deaths of the sex offender population. Nobody loves them, but they made mistakes, mostly because they didn't have sex education, and they don't get it while they're in there. So in 2019, 33% of the deaths in the entire prison, and the sex offender population is it always hovers around 20%. So in 20%, we have 33% of the deaths. In 2020, 35 deaths out of 82, Governor, that's 43% died in 20% of the population. In 2021, 30 of 68 deaths. But that's only up till December 15th because they haven't posted yet the rest of the deaths, so there's 2 more weeks. I don't have that yet. 44% of the deaths in the entire population are sex offenders. This is death through the back door to me. They didn't get death sentences. And this was a clue. When something should have been done, 54% of the deaths in January 2021 were sex offenders. 54%. I've worked on this since 2007, and there's no reason for you not to step up to the plate and stop this. They need to be housed separately, like Vermont and Iowa. Nobody ever pays attention. No. But the numbers don't lie, Governor. And it's too much to take. It's please, and speaking of death, please stop the unnecessary execution of Zane Floyd. He's sorry. He wants to live. Governor, please don't stain your legacy when you leave. And I do hope you get elected again. I'm going to vote for you. Please stop this social insanity.
Thank you for your comments.
And you can read my 11-page or 8-page submission.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in Southern Nevada?
Morning. My name is Brandon Cunningham. Do you need me to spell it?
That's okay.
Okay. I'm here with Return Strong. Speaking on item 7. I'm here with Return Strong to keep reminding you no matter what we are told today, there's another side to the story, and we will keep pressing until someone somewhere listens to us. Today I'm going to share a sequence of letters from someone from the past month depicting the trauma our loved ones have been through. And the writer shows their emotional decline during that COVID outbreak at Smiley Road. At 104, CO Humphrey came into the unit with her mask on her belt and asked a bunch of us nicely, she said, "Oh, I didn't forget it," and we said we didn't want to get sick. "I don't care," is what she said. "It's constant being trapped in these walls with people who treat my life as less than important. I can't get away to safety. It just beats at me. My mind and my heart, every minute I could get COVID. The year is almost over, but my days will stay the same. Begging COs to wear their masks, asking the warden to help, nothing is done. They just keep treating me like a life that doesn't matter. They make it clear with their words and actions that they don't care if me or any of us get COVID." 5:19 a.m., CO King walked me and other inmates to medical. Once again, as every day and every time I see CO King, I asked him to put on his mask. He told me, "Oh, I'm 6 feet away." No, it's only 2.5 feet, and this place has no ventilation. And it's just not, excuse me, it's just not now I see you talking with other inmates a foot away without your mask on, and you don't make other inmates wear them. He told me I was stupid and I sounded just like Biden. Every day, 4 to 7 COs are in culinary where inmates have to take their masks off to eat. The COs all sit around without a mask on. There's next to no ventilation in the small room. They're not lying about how bad COVID is in the news. So why doesn't NDOC do anything to keep us safe? I am in hell, and no matter how many times I ask the staff here to please wear their mask, it never changes. Well, the news makes it clear that things are changing for the worst. I am so afraid. It's not if these COs bring it in, it's just when and how bad it will be. Will I make it out of here alive? It's not right that I am locked in here with people who won't keep me safe. The stress and fear get so heavy, sometimes I just cry. Please help.
Thank you.
Morning. My name's Elijah Gutman with Return Strong, commenting on item number 7. The insanity of all this is all of this, and this is a letter. The sanity of all this is that all of this, the bed moves, the correctional disregard, the refusal to wear PPE, or get vaccinated, provide appropriate meals, medical neglect, every single thing has been told to the state repeatedly. Yet we sit and pretend that Daniel's statements of our correctional staff are heroes and we are doing a great job is just accepted like they have no reason to lie about how bad things are. And no one in the state of Nevada has done anything to take the cries perhaps seriously. We understand and acknowledge that this is a precarious time. We understand people are incarcerated and that carries with it a lot of freedom. We understand that the state is not responsible for causing the pandemic and all the complications that have happened as a result of that. But we also understand that there's best practices and solutions, and a call for better communication, transparency, accountability. There are things that could be done, but sadly Nevada has done none of them. The first round of the outbreak seems to have taught you nothing. Governor Sisolak, you've repeatedly said that the NDOC needs to include stakeholders in these conversations, yet you do not enforce that in any way. Words are just that, words, nothing. When you listen to the reports from the NDOC, I hope you hear the haunting voice of this woman in your head the entire time. I hope you hear the voice of the young man who lost his fingers as a freak accident but suffered needlessly afterwards and may lose his arm. I hope you remember Terry Clark, who was forced to punch himself in the face to get medical treatment. I hope you remember Eric Newman, still in the freezer at the funeral. Today, tonight, tomorrow, I hope you hear the sobs of the woman at sobs, please help, and it never leaves your consciousness, and it haunts you all until you do something. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Hello, members of the board. Good morning. My name is Mark Betancourt, for the record. I am here today with Return Strong, commenting on most of the agenda, presenting some questions that we would like to have answered. Time and again, we've provided comments, and Return Strong has provided comments, and many of those comments have gone either unresponded to or unanswered. I will, if I can get through all of these, otherwise I will send them along afterwards. First, why are we doing in-person public comments for this board and nothing else with the increased rise of COVID cases right now? There are families that live all over this state, and we believe that this is a way to shut down public comment by forcing it to be in person, even though that is not necessarily a safe option for us or for you all. We will continue to show up for our loved ones no matter how difficult it is made. Second, why are the announcements always problematic? The time for today's public comment was posted half an hour later than the meeting started, meaning that if we didn't catch it, we would have missed public comments altogether. Eric Newman's death is posted incorrectly along with several other people, and visitation policy as posted was never followed. And the Facebook page goes on and on with no information or updates. Why was the temporary visitation policy posted on 6/24/21 never followed? It was followed as far as the impact on families, but NDOC never moved through any of the phases that were indicated based on vaccination rates of incarcerated people. Yet the phase to in-contact visits has never happened. Why? Why is there still no programming? If prison industries can work and make money and create a profit, why can we not offer programming to help people earn their days and work on rehabilitation and reform? When will religious services be restored? Please tell us exactly what programs are available and how many seats there are and how many are open at each facility. And what is the holdup on vaccinations and booster shots? Dr. Naughton said in October that there was enough for everyone, yet people were still forced to fill out a kite and then wait until November 1st. At the same time, positive cases are rising, COs are not vaccinated, and are not respecting any of the precautions, as you can see and hear from the letters from some of the families who are incarcerated, family members who are incarcerated. And in the face of suspended visitation, will you re-implement the free 30-minute calls? When and how can video visits be implemented? Many states have both in-person and video, but Nevada does not have any video visits for incarcerated people or their families. What is going on in the facilities? There is no heat or hot water at Florence McClure, no hot water at SDCC Kitchen for over 5 years, ongoing sewage backups at Ely, mice and rat infestations at Ely and NCC, which was brought up in July at Family Council, assured it was resolved, but now there are still non-working phones at multiple facilities. Thank you. I will submit these afterwards. Thank you. Anyone else in Southern Nevada? Last chance. Okay, we'll move up north. Who do we have in Carson City?
Oh, there we go. Okay, my My name is Kirsten Liebendorfer. Last name is Liebendorfer. I also sent the board a copy of a longer email, which goes into more in depth of my concerns that I have today. This email, sorry. I'm the wife of a senior officer who is a 15-year veteran of NDOC and is currently assigned to Warm Springs Correctional Center here in Carson City. I'm here today asking the board, specifically Director Daniels and Deputy Director Gitter, to seriously consider the downhill slide of NDOC and what you intend to do about it. At Warm Springs alone, they have approximately 35 active officers to run the institution 24/7. The legislature, as you know, has approved over 100 positions to fully staff the institution. At the beginning of 2021, Warm Springs was changed to 8-hour shifts against the wishes of every single officer on the ground. This was opposed because 8-hour shifts would create a situation where mandatory overtime was required by every officer able to be forced mandatoried. COVID-19 shut down Warm Springs in November 2020, where the mask mandate by the feds was not being followed or enforced by many on shift command at that time, leading many officers on the ground to assume that masks weren't that important, so they did not also enforce the inmates to be masked. This put my family at risk as my husband was exposed, despite him wearing a mask every day, became infected, and we didn't find out until our household of 6 all became infected. Nevada was given $7.3 million through the CARES Act by the feds, specifically for all levels of law enforcement to respond to COVID-19. These monies were to include, but were not limited to, hiring, supplies, training, etc. This is listed on the 3rd page, 2nd bullet point of the CARES Act overview dated July 13, 2020. Many other states have used this money for retention bonuses and hiring bonuses for law enforcement, including corrections. As of this date, the board and the state of Nevada has offered 0 extra money to help the currently overworked employed officers. My husband is currently working 16-hour shifts more often than not. He is volunteering for many of them so as not to be surprised with mandatory overtime because he has joint custody of his 2 children and would like to actually see them during his custody. He has been notified that by the end of March, the schedule will be 5 12-hour shifts. This may seem better, but it's not. There are still not enough officers currently to staff this shift setup, and many officers will still have to be mandatory to 16-hour shifts. The toll this is taking on families, not to mention the officers themselves, is unconscionable. The rate of divorce, alcoholism, and depression within law enforcement in normal times is extremely high due to the stress involved in the job. Add low numbers and Nevada not doing what they can to maintain the current pathetic staffing levels in addition to productive recruitment of more officers, and I am ashamed that NDOC has no integrity or loyalty to their officers who maintain prisons filled with convicted felons. There is no way for the current staffing levels to prevent riots within the institutions. And it sounds like you've heard a lot of other comments from inmates, families, and on their behalf that they are very upset with their conditions that they're living in. There are simply not enough officers on any given shift. Officers are exhausted and still being expected to work countless 16-hour shifts to meet emergency staffing levels.
That's 3 minutes.
I am demanding that you show my family and other NDOC families that you care about our husbands,
3
wives,
minutes.
sisters, brothers, sons, and daughters.
Excuse
or
me,
you could
thank
just
you for
open
your
the gates
comments.
and let the population at large deal with
Thank
the
you for
outpouring
your
of offenders.
comments. Okay, I've got to be fair to everyone here. When it's 3 minutes, we mean 3 minutes, okay? So I appreciate you complying with that. Is there anyone else in Northern Nevada?
Good morning. My name is Travis Freitas, and I'm here to speak on agenda item number 7, and primarily staffing levels. Warm Springs has been legislatively approved for over 100 staff members spread appropriately across 3 shifts, requiring 53 staff at a bare minimum to maintain critical levels. We are and have been 8 short, totaling 45 staff only who can work unrestricted overtime. This means 45 staff would have to work every single day without any days off and would still be 8 positions short of critical levels. Due to current circumstances, we cannot meet this critical level approved by your body. Instead, we operate using exhausted staff to meet dangerously low levels. Due to lockdowns, inmates are becoming more frustrated, which spikes assaults and incidents, proof by the last 3 staff assaults in 2021. The 45 staff are consistently mandated to work double shifts in an effort to continue protecting the public. Each of you will get out of here at 5 p.m., presumably, followed by another 8-hour shift tomorrow for a 5-day work week. As stated, my staff and I are doing 16-hour shifts, back-to-back, and commonly doing this 2 to 4 times a week, which gives us 56 to 72 hours compared to your 40-hour work week. And remember, overtime doesn't go towards our retirement. This is sustainable for a week, sustainable perhaps for a month, but months at a time is inexcusable and demonstrates the lack of support first responders feel that they have. 2 years it has been now, and COVID quarantine policies compound our vacancy rates, which directly increases mandated double shifts and dangerously low staffing levels. How do you expect us to protect the public, rehabilitate offenders, and maintain a healthy family life under these circumstances? And what return do we see for our sacrifices? Any raises, positive benefit changes, emergency recruitment? No. Will we get our help desk email suggesting we enjoy our families on holidays? But I opened that email while it was Christmas because I was at work. Our retirement contributions and medical insurance rates go up. Our uniform allowance goes down. Money is taken every which way from your first responders, and you expect us to manage quietly. How can we manage in such despair? Alcohol, pharmaceutical drugs, perhaps? Since the start of 2020, I personally have been to an emergency room for a mild heart attack, diagnosed as a result from stressful and excessive work conditions. Others are leaving as they're recruited for better employment. Some are quitting because this is just exhausting. And some regrettably have passed away, leaving their families burdened by their lamentable loss. Governor Sisolak, your slogan is families first. Is that your family? Is that everyone else's family? What about ours? Sadly, we take a cynical disposition to this rhetoric. Your constituents request an answer to your plans to help us. Your voters request you place your first responders first. Request a special session, please, to address the staffing levels and retention. Thank you, and again, for the record, my name is Travis Freitas.
Can you hear me? Yes? My name is Maxine Liebendorfer, Liebendorfer. I would like to read you a post written by a 15-year-old daughter who is now without her father, Ed Papke, who passed away on January 18th, 2022. Quote, "There are absolutely no words to explain the love I have for you. Every second I spent with you was a blessing to my heart. January 18, 2022 will be the day you were sent to a beautiful place. You made us laugh, you made us cry, and you were the best dad I could ever ask for. The times we shared will always be something too meaningful to explain. You will always be my joy and my happiness. Thank you for everything you've done for me, getting me prepared for the real world, being there when I needed a shoulder to cry on or just there to listen to anything I had to say. You made so many people feel safe. You saved so many lives, and you were a person that will always be loved no matter what. My heart feels empty now that you're gone. I will do everything I can to make you proud. I will keep your spirit, your light, and your happiness. I will recover and grow and be the daughter you always wanted me to be. You are an amazing soul that will be missed. You were gone way too soon, and I wish I got to say goodbye. Keep being a diehard 49er fan, always quote famous movies, keep being a dummy, keep making funny jokes, and most importantly, keep making people feel loved. I will miss you more and more every day. You were a blessing to this world. Never forget that, Dad. I love you. I love you more than anything. I will love you forever, always, Dad." End of quote. And most of you do not know who this is. He did not make the news. He did not get a procession to Reno to be honored with other fallen officers because he did not die in the line of duty. This man was not only a father, but a friend, an absolutely stellar officer for NDOT. As I read this, my heart breaks and my soul cries for change. My son-in-law is also an officer and a father to not only his children, but to my grandchildren as well. If this tragedy happened to my family, you would not care enough to reach out and offer condolences, as you have not done for this officer's family. So make changes instead to help protect these officers so no more families have to deal with this grief. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, esteemed board members and Governor Sisolak. For the record, my name is Robert Smith, and I am a sergeant for the Nevada Department of Corrections. I've been with the department for 15 years, and in my 15 years with NDOC, I've never seen the department in such shambles. There's no morale. Overtime is at an all-time high. Staffing levels are at the lowest I've ever seen, and there's no relief in sight. Northern Nevada Correctional Center is currently slotted for 252 correctional officers, including supervisors. Currently, we have 137, with many leaving in the coming weeks. Officers are leaving due to the vaccination mandates, threats of termination if unvaccinated, mandatory overtime, rising contribution to retirement, changes in our medical insurance if unvaccinated, pay cuts, furloughs, and low staffing. These same officers are asked to show up to work and do more and more with so much less. Officers are volunteering for overtime so they do not get mandated to stay in a position which requires them to work after completely exerting themselves with numerous overtime shifts throughout their work week. By them volunteering, it does not count towards the retirement like a forced mandatory shift does. We continually take from our officers and offer nothing in return. This is not how you should treat officers who are keeping Nevada's citizens safe from those who cannot succeed in society. If this does not get corrected soon, there will be no need for a Board of Prisoners Commission meeting in the North because NDOC in the North will have no staff to run the prisons. NDOC is doing nothing to recruit officers, leaving current staff to suffer day in and day out. Every one of you are able to go home and be out of work at a reasonable time, generally within 8 hours, give or take. Our staff are coming to work wondering if they'll get to go home and celebrate their child's birthday with them or see their child off to their first day in first grade. They dread coming to work because they know there's a very good chance they'll be forced to work a 16-hour shift 3 to 5 days throughout their work week. We need to hire new, qualified officers and retain the staff that we currently have. This requires money. I urge you to research what Nebraska Department of Corrections did for their officers and to recruit new staff. We need to stop the unnecessary spending and start spending that money on recruiting staff and retaining the ones that we have. Outlying counties are taking their staff at astronomical rates. We currently have staff, we are currently training staff at the cost of the state, and the counties are taking fully trained officers ready to start. This is not doing NDOC any favors. We are constantly having to do more with less, and it's taking the happiness out of the staff who already work in an extremely negative environment. When are we going to start putting Nevada correctional officers first? We are assaulted, have bodily fluids propelled on us, and witness crimes that would make the news headlines, perform first aid, save lives, and we are always the first to take from. When does it stop? Why aren't we receiving help? Governor Sisolak, commissioners, when are we going to start supporting our first responders? I thought this was a family first slogan state. It seems quite the opposite. We need some relief, and we needed it yesterday. Because after the riot in Southern Desert, we are only setting ourselves up for something worse, which will happen very soon if we do not start making changes today. For the record, my name is Robert Smith. Thank you for your time.
Unbelievable. My name's Anita Pedersen. Can you hear me? I want to watch you shake your heads no when I mention the Air Guard again, the National Guard. That was amazing. I'm sitting here today in front of you as a mother of an inmate at Lovelock. Also, I have family and friends. I've created quite a family unit. I support men when they get out. They come to my home to live. I stand also as an activist with Return Strong, very powerful group. The ACLU is here as well. I have a family friend named Justin Meisner, number 29914, November 2021, complains of lower leg pain. This to me seems, I'm a mother of 6. I could have figured this out. I have no idea what's going on in that infirmary. Goes into the infirmary only to be given blood pressure meds, sent back to his cell, well knowing this is serious, complains to be treated seriously, only to be ignored for days. When the leg turns black, he's finally sent out, only to die. He died from a from a blood clot. Are you kidding me? Low staffing, inept, insufficient, unbelievable. Low staffing, that's no excuse for 24/7 lockdown. These are real men with real families and real friends. We feel ignored. Don't ignore me anymore. Listen to me. Please, please make a change. Bring in the Air Guard. Who cares? The National Guard. Who cares? Make something different happen. Some of these men also rely on spiritual connections and growth that they have not been allowed to gather for prayer in over 2 years. Bring in the National Guard for starters. And I also promised my son to mention this.
When the commissary runs out of items to order, find another supplier and stop taking away items, i.e. zinc, vitamin C, minerals, things that make them feel like they have some control over their life. It's a virus. We're not going to stop it. This mask is ridiculous. The NDOC website mission is to provide quality, evidence-based health care that is professional, humane, and appropriate. You have a moral and legal obligation here. Let that resonate. As is, cruel and inhumane come to mind. Change the status quo, bring in the National Guard.
Good morning, Commission, Board, and Governor Sisolak, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Ayana, spelled A-Y-A-N-N-A, Simmons-Oglesby, the latter O-G-L-E-S-B-Y, and I'm here as an advocate for Return Strong. I will be reading a statement from another member whose family was tragically impacted by basically the medical neglect. This is in reference to item number 4. And I will read. My brother was incarcerated at a very young age for his participation in a crime. Sadly, after serving 17 years, he was diagnosed with cancer and passed away in prison last year. His story and many others paint a picture of the inhumanity that occurs in Nevada when your loved ones become ill. My brother's care was delayed for so long, getting sicker by the day. He deliberately punched himself in the nose, causing it to bleed in order to trick medical staff into taking him to the hospital, where he eventually was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. My brother's story is one of many. Another young man in his 20s suffered an injury in his cell and lost his fingers due to what started as a bad accident. Here is his story in his own words, and I quote, "On July 30th, 2021, I was moving property around in my cell. I fell, 175 pounds of dead weight, and my hand was still in the vent, and it tore my index fingers, middle finger and ring finger right off. Not only that, I tore the artery in my ring finger, so I'm bleeding out in my cell. I called man down, emergency medical call, but at Southern Desert, they didn't have buttons in the cell, so me and my cellie had to bang on the door and scream for help. When the officer finally shows up, he's like, 'Are you being for real right now?' Sarcastically, of course. So I'm bleeding out. I tore 3 fingers, and I'm looking at my fingers in the vent. I'm on the ground, and they finally called medical. They come and call for an ambulance, then they take forever. Finally, they get me to UMC, and they do what they can, but they make me wait for surgery until the next day, and I lose the pieces of what's left of my fingers because they failed to timely treat the medical condition. Then they send me to High Desert, where they put me in a cell in the hole, in medical isolation for a month with no wound care, and I ended up getting gangrene. Because of the lack of wound care at High Desert, on August the 27th, I had to refuse to lock down after calling for medical help for weeks. I am now awaiting surgery and skin grafts to find out if I will lose my arm." According to the NDOC website, the mission of the medical department of the Nevada Department of Corrections is to provide quality, evidence-based health care using an efficient system, managed care that is professional,
That's 3
humane,
minutes.
and appropriate. Thank you for your time. And again, we're Nevada Strong, Battle-Born. We have a moral obligation.
Governor's Deputy Director Quagga, there's no more public comment.
General 4, I'm sorry, I'm not on. Move on to item number 3, acceptance and approval of the minutes. We have a motion on the minutes. General 4, or second, we've got a motion for approval. Any discussion?
Yes,
Hearing
Governor,
seeing
this is
none.
Barbara Sagaski. Governor, this is Barbara Sagaski. I have to abstain from voting. I
Okay.
wasn't at the last meeting.
Okay, please mark Secretary Sagaski as abstaining. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Item number 4, Chief Medical Officer report. Dr. Azam.
Thank you. Good morning, Governor, and esteemed members of the board. Good morning, everyone. For the record, Aizen Azam, State Chief Medical Officer. You already have a copy of our report, so I will briefly highlight some important points. As required by the NRS.
So Dr. Zama, speak up just a little bit. I can barely hear him.
Okay. Can you hear me better? Yes?
I can't hear him either. Yeah, I can't hear him either. This is Barbara.
Okay, I can't tell if it's on because I can't see the red ring, so. Is it on?
It is on, Governor, this is Deputy Cuenca. It is on, sir.
Okay.
I don't really know what to do. I would speak louder. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So again,
go ahead.
Good morning, Governor and esteemed members of the board. Good morning, everybody. For the record, Aizen Azam, State Chief Medical Officer. You already have a copy of my report, so I will briefly highlight some important points. As required by the NRS, the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health regularly conducts inspections of state correctional facilities. Our inspections include medical, dietary and sanitation, and nutritional adequacy inspections. The Division of Public and Behavioral Health conducted 7 dietary and sanitation inspections in 2021. A total of 25 critical violations were identified, while only 6 were identified in 2020. Of the 7 inspected correctional facilities, only Florence McCleary Women's Correction Center had no critical violations. On the other hand, Ely State Prison was cited for 7 critical dietary violations. Medical inspections were conducted at 2 correctional facilities in 2021. 5 deficiencies were cited at the Northern Nevada Correctional Center, and 1 minor infection control breach was identified at the Florence McCleary Women's Correctional Center. Further breakdown of all deficiencies identified in 2021 is summarized in the report you have, in the provided report. Almost all deficiencies were corrected during the inspections. However, deficiencies which couldn't be resolved by the end of the inspection were promptly addressed by the prison compliance officers. No nutritional adequacy violations were identified during our inspections in 2021. Our infection control inspectors conducted several site visits to correctional facilities, especially those who continue to experience COVID outbreaks. We provided detailed recommendations to contain current outbreaks and prevent future ones, and to increase vaccination rate and boosting rates among staff and inmates to protect the staff and inmates in prison. With this, I'm concluding my update and will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Does the board have any questions for Dr. Azam? General Ford or Secretary?
No, Governor, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, thank you, Doctor. Item number 5, Director Daniels, comments and update. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Good morning, Governor Sisolak, General Ford, and Secretary Sagavsky. For the record, my name is Charles Daniels, Director, Nevada Department of Corrections. Today marks exactly 23 months since the NDOC began its battle against the invisible virus, COVID-19. While our efforts have not been perfect, the dedication of our employees have kept us in the fight. Despite the continuous battle against an invisible virus, NDOC remains one of the few state agencies that has not shut their doors and required staff to work from home. NDOC has a constitutional obligation to care for those in our confinement facilities and an obligation to conduct business with public safety as the cornerstone to our existence. Our decisions are, on occasion, unpopular, but public safety, staff safety, and inmate safety dictate the majority of our deliberate actions and will continue to do so. NDOC recently suspended inmate visitation at all facilities. The decision was unpopular with some. However, the decision was made to mitigate the increase in the new cases of the virus. Today, each NDOC division will provide the board with a brief update as we kick off 2022, focused on reimagining the agency in support of the governor's mission and vision for the state of Nevada. Let me start with the brief history. At the outbreak of the pandemic, Silver State Industries produced cloth masks for inmates and staff, face shields and gowns for medical staff, and hand sanitizer for both inmates and staff. Sanitizer was initially distributed to all inmates. However, after an inmate was hospitalized from ingesting it, the sanitizer was delegated to staff to distribute in single doses. Protocols were put in place to sanitize common areas and units. Disinfectant foggers were provided to each institution. Staff have been tested weekly or twice weekly throughout the pandemic. N95 masks were distributed to all staff and inmates on a weekly basis and are required to be worn. Vaccination clinics are held regularly at each institution. Also important to note that inmates have not been left defenseless. Each inmate has the opportunity to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. Each inmate is provided 2 N95 masks per week and has access to hand sanitizer in the units. Cleaning supplies are also available for sanitizing purposes. It should be noted that at the onset of the pandemic, March 20th, 2020, NDOC reported roughly 128 non-custody vacancies, or 12%, and 176 custody vacancies, or 9%. As of January 12, 2020, NDOC has 250 non-custody vacancies, or better stated, 23%, and 480 custody vacancies, or 25%. This concludes my overview, and if there are no questions or comments, I'll turn this over to our acting medical director, Dr. Martin Knott.
Do we have any questions for Director Daniels from either Secretary Sagaski or General Ford?
No questions here.
Thank you.
No questions here either. Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Dr. Martin Naughton. I'm the acting medical director for the Nevada Department of Corrections. The Nevada Department of Corrections continues to be proactive in mitigating COVID-19 for both staff and offenders. By continuing our screening protocols and when in doubt, keep them out mantra, as well as contact tracing. Most facilities broadcast information on our internal television channels where available. Most facilities continue to post COVID-19 information in the housing units and common areas by medical staff. COVID vaccine, the weekly town meetings have continued to be held to educate both staff and offenders, and we continue to offer COVID-19 vaccine and booster shots at each of our major facilities to staff and offenders. Furthermore, all NDOC executive teams are making institutional rounds, encouraging staff and offenders to get vaccinated for COVID-19. As of 1/24/22, NDOC has a total of 450. That's 110 of the Moderna and 390 of the J&J doses of COVID-19 vaccines in our main pharmacy. Our main pharmacy has the ability to order COVID-19 vaccines every Tuesday from the Nevada State Immunization Program, or northern facilities acquire COVID-19 through health departments and nearby hospitals such as Perzine. COVID-19 vaccines requests via medical kites and staff requests are collected by the medical department at each institution. Once the number of requests reach the number of doses in one vial, a clinic is scheduled. These are done to minimize the COVID-19 vaccine waste. As of July 24th, 2022, 6,591, or 65.9%, out of 10,004 offenders are fully vaccinated with either one dose of Janssen or 2 doses of Moderna or Pfizer. Furthermore, 720 offenders, or 10.7% of the 6,591 fully vaccinated offenders, have received the COVID-19 booster shots. We also reach out to the Division of Public and Behavioral Health and ask help for vaccinating our inmates. Current COVID-19 testing protocols, staff both vaccinated and unvaccinated continue to test weekly at the start of the work week, utilizing the BinaxNOW Now test as the results are available in 15 minutes. However, if the staff tests negative but signs and symptoms of COVID-19 are present, a PCR test is also administered. To strengthen our firewall, we continue to quarantine, isolate positive staff inmates for 10 days due to our unique environment. Offenders are tested at intake, when transporting from facility to facility, when transferring to the community or back to the facilities on a weekly basis. COVID-19 tests are administered as needed, positive exposure, symptomatic offenders. Additionally, all of our transport teams are fully vaccinated and in full PPE when transporting inmates. The Nevada Department of Corrections has approximately 1 million N95 masks, and we have distributed 25% of, as most institutions are doing a great job of managing their inventories. Staff challenges. Medical has 64 vacant positions all through NDOC and are utilizing 42 agency nurses, phlebotomists, certified nurse assistants, and physicians to cover these vacancies. The total overtime paid our medical staff for fiscal 2021 is $1,807,868.93. Currently, our overtime from pay period 14 for fiscal year 2022 is $901,406.65. The total temporary staff expenditures for the year 2021 is $1,679,141.38. From the beginning of the consent decree in January of 10/22, 668 hepatitis C patients have been initiated. Out of the 688 treatments initiated, 580 offenders have confirmed completion of the treatment with NDOC custody. We continue to routinely test, diagnose, and treat offenders with Hep C unless medically contraindicated or refused. Lastly, our staff are working diligently to protect our institution, our staff, and the offenders in spite of being short-staffed, and we cannot thank them enough for the job they're doing. This completes my update. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns.
No questions here, Governor.
I don't have any either, Governor. Thank you.
For the record, this is Bill Quenga, Deputy Director, doing an update for the Medical Division Administration. Our accomplishments for 2021, we had a hepatitis C treatment, we had a case. NDOC was able to comply with the October 2020 mandate to treat all levels of acuity within the inmate population by October 31st, 2021. Treatment has been maintained within budgetary constraints and is ongoing. AB 466, passage of AB 466 by the Nevada legislature appropriated to prison medical $15,842,443 for hepatitis C treatment of inmates who tested positive upon intake and in current population to SFYE 2023. This appropriation was in direct response to the litigation. COVID-19, prison medical continues to support all NDOC efforts in mitigation, including all tracking and reporting to qualify for CARES offset to qualifying expenditures. Established contracts, KALOS, upgrades and improvements to current pharmacy software. This will improve ordering and delivery of inmate medicine throughout the NDOC institutions statewide. Advanced biomedical and imaging, bring all X-rays capabilities within the 7 institutions to cloud-based storage and link all X-ray systems together. Technological advances have provided better equipment. For 2022, our medical goals and plans. Deep dive into the budget bill to address concerns. Personnel, all medical and dental components within institutions are understaffed. Current staffing levels have not increased, but industry standards for patient cares have. Establish an equipment replacement schedule. Identify medical and dental equipment to replace systematically based on useful lifespan. Reclassification of positions, historically difficult to fill and retain, such as LPNs, to reduce stagnate vacancies and increase personnel levels. Medicaid, establish contracts and protocols with Department of Health and Human Services, Medicaid, to reduce the number of claims paid by NDOC that would otherwise Medicaid eligible claims. Medicaid rejection of claims for incorrect information submitted, Social Security number, invalid incorrect citizenship, status, Medicare eligible, etc. Workers' comp, establish a working system for medical claims eligible to be paid by workers' comp to be processed timely, all forms, routing, and contacts well defined. Complete upgrades of all X-ray systems to the cloud-based storage server and current technology. Increase revenue through AB 389 under NRS 209.246 by capturing those claims validated as eligible for reimbursement. That's all I have for medical administration. I'm prepared to take any questions.
No questions from the Secretary of State. Thank you.
None for me either.
Good morning, Governor. General Ford, Secretary Sagaski. For the record, my name is Bill Gitter, G-I-T-T-E-R-E, the new Deputy Director of Operations for the department. In spite of the ongoing COVID crisis and critically low staffing numbers, the hardworking men and women of the Nevada Department of Corrections continue to work long hours and extra shifts in order to sustain safe, modified normal operations across the department. Those operations, although limited in comparison to those prior to the pandemic, support basic services and care for our inmate population in a humane and legally compliant manner. However, the onset of the current wave of the Omicron variant has recently impacted our operations further. On January 6, 2022, we realized that many of our institutions, particularly in Clark County, were being challenged by rapidly increasing positive test results affecting both our staff members and our inmates. Although some institutions were being adversely affected faster than others, it was reasonable to expect that all of them were already under challenge by the variant and that test results would soon show them to all to be similarly challenged. At one such institution, the number of positive staff members increased 540% in 10 days. And the number of inmate positives increased 2,350% in the same period. As a result, we had to take immediate action and again temporarily suspend in-person visiting across the department in order to stop additional exposures and protect the safety, health, and welfare of our staff and inmates. As we continue to confront this challenge to the best of our operational capabilities, we continue to support 16 core programs and 13 optional programs for merit credits, 34 vocational programs, and 5 educational programs. Our continued efforts to return to volunteer-led programming have not yet been further impacted. Regarding the vaccine mandate, although the temporary order has now expired, the department supports every effort to achieve the best possible protection from spreading the virus among our staff and inmates. As it is, the department's staff vaccination rate now exceeds Nevada average by 20%. Following the conclusion of the holidays, the department stands ready to proceed with disciplinary actions against employees who disregarded the deadline established by the lawful temporary vaccine mandate issued in September of 2021 in a fair, progressive, and reasonable manner. Wardens at each facility continue to meet with their staff to gauge the temperament of their employees in an attempt to anticipate any level of involvement in possible, but now less likely, coordinated adverse employment actions. Wardens will continue to provide guidance as it relates to the COVID vaccine and the benefits of being vaccinated. NDOC is confident that it is prepared to handle any anticipated work stoppage as a result of potential employee protests. All wardens understand their responsibility to ensure the safety of the public, our staff, and our inmates as we continue our efforts to mitigate the introduction and spread of COVID-19 in any variant. As a matter of practical preparedness, all of the men and women of the department, both sworn officers and non-sworn staff members, recently participated in a successful drill that proved our readiness across the state. Whether caused by a natural disaster or an adverse employment action, the department is confident we can handle any sudden staffing shortages. Regarding our critically low staffing numbers, which underlie the growing wave of additional unavailable staff members who are out of work due to COVID infections, it has been absolutely necessary for the department to utilize sworn officers from facilities with stronger personnel numbers to sustain the weaker ones. As the number of unavailable sworn officers has rapidly grown due to the Omicron variant infections, the department has also started utilizing non-sworn staff members to support 24/7 operations in order to help maintain the safety of our staff and inmates. As a result, the department has experienced and is likely to continue experiencing a high volume of overtime. Recruitment efforts have been marginally successful. However, the applicant pool has been significantly diminished due in part to the availability of better paying jobs in each local community where our prisons and conservation camps are located. Stacked against those conditions, the department's continued, and at some particularly stressed institutions, excessive use of overtime has resulted in delays in basic services, omitted essential operating tasks, serious safety and security incidents, diminished individual performance, staff burnout, excessive sick leave, retirements, and resignations. Meanwhile, it's more than fair to say that job seekers aren't exactly beating down our door to join NDOC. Applicants stubbornly remain a small fraction of what they were prior to the pandemic. Our most recent initiative aimed at changing that dynamic is to designate volunteer special duty full-time recruiting sergeants at each major institution. They report directly to the warden and work hand in hand with human resources specialists to find, recruit, and hire new custody officers for each institution. Prior to the pandemic, NDOC used this recruiter HR partnership technique at Ely State Prison with some measured success. This time, the entire department will use it to move the needle and hire more officers. Lastly, we should mention that in recent public comments, a few concerned NDOC staff members submitted similar assessments of the risks inherent with critically low staffing and institutional safety. Their concern is our concern. Maintaining safe operations is the primary focus of every leader and officer in our organization on every shift, each and every day. As they step forward, I meet and engage with them to listen to their individual concerns and recommendations. And as a matter of fact, a recent meeting with and recommendation from one such concerned staff member led to the decision to return to the recruiting sergeant concept, this time across the whole department. That completes my operations update, and I welcome any questions or comments.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Do we have any questions for the Deputy Director from General Ford or Secretary Zagowski?
None here.
I have none, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, item number 8, programs update from Deputy Director Williams.
Good morning, Governor, General Ford, and Secretary Zagowski. For the record, my name is Brian E. Williams, Sr., Deputy Director of Programs for the Department. As we begin our endeavor to normalcy, the Programs Division continues to work closely with facility administrators in creating schedules that are conducive to day-to-day operations and COVID protocols to ensure we continue to mitigate the spread, i.e. cleaning and sanitizing, movement, and social distancing. As the year 2020 comes to an end, the Programs Division has begun allowing volunteers to re-enter our facilities. Before this, all volunteers were required to attend our new mandatory non-uniform training, which focuses on COVID protocols. This training is specific to our non-uniform and non-NDOC staff. Due to the importance, this training has been conducted by wardens and associate wardens. In addition, non-NDOC staff are required to be fully vaccinated before being approved for entry into any NDOC facility. As we continue our road to normalcy, I would like to share with the BOP commissioners that substance abuse, mental health, education, and reentry departments have continued to provide services throughout the pandemic while issuing merit credits to those offenders who have completed their respective programs. Our next focus is on restoring the various volunteer and religious services. I would now like to share a few highlights with the board from each one of my program divisions. Education. During COVID, Nevada System of Higher Education and NDOC launched post-secondary Polycom courses via screen and blue screen software, which enable college professors to teach real-time from home and have a question and answer real-time, allowing previous and new students enrollment. Because of solutions raised and out-of-the-box thinking, this pilot program has shown us how to offer courses as video conferences and how to implement and offer hybrid post-secondary courses this fall 2022. Mental health. The mission of the Mental Health Department changed drastically as a result of the effects of COVID-19 had on our agency. As the virus affected various facilities at different times, psychoeducational courses were either paused or canceled in order to protect staff and inmates. Despite the challenges associated with COVID-19, core mental health services continue to be provided to inmates. These included intake screenings, psychiatric assessments, segregation rounds, suicide prevention programming, parole board reports, risk assessment for sex offenders, welfare checks, etc. Fortunately, programming opened up again, and all facilities that have adequate staffing and safety protections are now providing programs that offer merit credits to the inmate population. Substance abuse. We continue to program with individuals in custody throughout the entire pandemic. We experienced few delays and or lockdowns due to COVID. However, during most lockdowns, we were able to program even at a modified pace, i.e. smaller groups, programming at beds versus in rooms, etc. Not only did we continue programming, but we revamped our programs to incorporate emerging research for effectiveness with this population in regards to gender responsive programming. As of April 2020, we completely revamped the programs New Light and Stars at Florence McClure Women's Correctional Center to move away from the therapeutic community and solely criminogenic risk needs model, which is very effective for men, to an empowerment community and gender responsive, trauma-informed curricula. As of August 2021, we revamped our male programs to increase dosage of treatment specific to criminogenic risk needs, going from 118.3 hours of programming to 122.3 hours. In keeping on the trend with emerging research, we increased programming specific to gender-responsive needs, going from 0 hours to 27 hours of programming. We also admitted all non-criminogenic, non-gender responsive programming, as it does not have an impact on reducing recidivism. Reentry. As of January 1st, 2022, reentry has successfully moved to a new location in Indian Springs and expanded and developed regional community training center. The reentry department is continuing to solicit candidates to fill vacant positions throughout the state while fighting the challenges of the vaccine mandates, Smart 21 delays, and COVID. AB 358, Medicaid, is also going well, and we anticipate being in total compliance by March 2022. Reentry has staffed 4 of the 5 AA4 positions as of January 24th, 2022. Our reentry department is collaboratively working with outside partners to enhance services and bring employment opportunities to the offender population. I would also like to share, based on earlier testimony, I would like to share the NDOC and PMP has discussed an issue that was brought to our attention regarding the suspension of offenders' parole who test positive days before their release. PMP and NDOC agree, going forward, we will only postpone releases if they are going to a halfway house. This will go into effect immediately. Lastly, we cannot anticipate what 2022 might look like given the introduction of the Omicron variant of COVID. However, the department will continue to explore new ideas in an attempt to enhance and provide more services to the offender population while continuing to utilize evidence-based programs and best practices. We are also very cognizant that we may need to alter our trajectory once again should the Omicron affect operations, but our department and staff are fully committed to continue the fight and keep our staff, offenders, volunteers, and visitors safe as we look towards normalcy. Thank you. That completes my report for the Programs Division. I welcome any questions or comments that the board may have.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Do we have any questions for the Deputy Director from either General Ford or Secretary Sagasti?
I have none. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, and if we could shorten some of these up, Director, it might be good. We've got, I think, 4 more to go. Deputy Director Lucas.
Good morning, Governor, General Ford, and Secretary Sagasti. For the record, my name is Lisa Lucas, the new Deputy Director of Support Services. I'm looking at support services through a different lens and bringing new opportunities to the agency. One example is a project we've started working on with the Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology to procure federal grant funding to provide fiber to our rural facilities so they'll be able to utilize telemedicine. They will be filing the RFP to go out to bid within the next few weeks. This new service is being planned to begin July 1st, 2022, unless there is significant new construction needed. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay.
Item number 10, Prison Industries Update. This is Deputy Director Klinga. Prison Industries, despite challenges presented by COVID, including supply chain issues, Silver State Industries has had a successful year. In 2021, we had a monthly average of 557 inmates working in prison industries statewide, totaling over 600,000 hours throughout the year. The ranch has been able to hold 2 in-person wild horse and burro adoptions with COVID protocols in place and currently houses 1,550 wild horses. The ranch's private industry partner, Full Circle Compost, has invested over $1 million in equipment this year to enhance operations and enable them to expand the number of offenders working. The ranch also completed the required annual third-party audit of the Federal Bureau of Land Management wild horse program with no audit findings. The Department of Justice and Bureau of Justice Administration through the National Correction Industries Association requires a strict biannual audit to maintain Prison Industries Enhancement Certification Program certification. The audit was performed by 3 out-of-state auditors, and we are proud to share we were successful with no discrepancies. Safety protocols and trainings are showing positive results. While we have a similar number of worker compensation claims We had no days away from work for offenders, and the highest risk program, the horse trainer, showed a 50% reduction in reported claims. The ranch is working with NV Organics, our compost partner in Western Nevada College, to implement a commercial driver's license training program for offenders. This fiscal year, we are focused on expanding our reach in both government and private sectors. In doing so, we will enhance community partnerships and supply a wide variety of industries while reducing costs to city, county, and state budgets. Developing and maintaining mutually beneficial relationships is integral to the sustainability of our shops and in developing work skills and certifications that will prepare offenders to be successful upon their release into society. That's all I have.
Number 11, Human Resources, Kimberly Smith. Good morning, Governor, General Ford, and Secretary Savasky. My name is Kimberly Smith, and I am the Acting Chief of Human Resources at NDOC. In efforts to maintain best practices for NDOC's employee recruitment and retention endeavors, as indicated in our last session, we are continuing to mentor, guide, train, and grow from within NDOC. We maintain our commitment to align ourselves with professionally accredited organizations and programming for enhanced professional developmental opportunities that will reach, attract, and retain the very best service from our current employee pool. We are firm believers that by remaining determined and resolute with purpose, our goal of driving learning and professional growth through enhancing proficiency in the areas of leadership, communication, and specialized areas of learning and training will only encourage and foster an employee call to action. We are still very committed to attending local and out-of-state job fairs as the budget allows. We continue to connect with local colleges and universities in the North and South so that NDOC and its mission are visible. Excuse me. We continue to promote the benefit of joining our team and our strides in making our presence known on social media by updating our Facebook and LinkedIn pages for job posting opportunities are making progress. As noted by Dee Gitter, Human Resources is working with our facility staff sergeants to assist us with recruitment efforts. Their presence and contribution at various job fairs and recruitment functions will support NDOC by furthering describing the importance of a job in corrections while also highlighting the benefits and influence that a job in this profession can offer. It should be noted that the backbone of corrections is its workforce, and since corrections is fundamentally a people profession where interpersonal skills and real face-to-face interactions are key to success and effectiveness, NDOC must rely upon qualified trained staffing. But as noted, but with the severe workforce challenges, NDOC is still answering the call and showing up every day in the capacity of an essential employee. Lastly, NDOC continues to revisit the critical hire, rehire, labor shortage program. We also intend on reaching out to seek guidance and approval from the IFC, the BOE, and PERS in efforts to extend the critical hire program to those who work in mental health and medical arenas, as NDOC is seeing a shortage and need to fill in these areas as well. We remain diligent in reaching out to the Retired Police Officers Association. We stay committed to pulling an internal NDOC report of upcoming retirees, in addition to looking at contracting staff as steadfast and unwavering initiatives directed at growing and stabilizing staffing within. Governor, since my last statement in the United States, Our World in Data reports that 63.4% of the population are fully vaccinated. In California, 67.8% of the residents are fully vaccinated. But more specifically in Nevada, 4.51 million doses of the vaccine have been given. That translates to 1.78 million of our residents that have been fully vaccinated, which equates to 57.9% of our residents that are fully vaccinated. With that, sir, through the vaccine mandate for NDOC, I can report that we are at 83.5% fully vaccinated, which represents 2,115 positions filled at the time that this report was run, which was January 24th, 2022. Please also note that with NDOC's HR team being hit with COVID-19, the quarantine measures, recent new hires, terms, resignations, retirements, and total employee numbers can vary day by day. Numbers are in real time as opposed to waiting until they are updated in SuccessFactors, which is our state systems application and products HR analytic tool for HR tracking. Additionally, NDOC has created an exemptions committee to handle the receipt of religious and medical exemptions. The tracking and monitoring of this report is done as exemptions are received, with weekly meetings scheduled for deliberation and discussion. NDOC has created and adopted an internal set of guidelines that have been vetted and approved by the Attorney General's office that frames the mechanisms and processes of those exemptions. As of January 20th, 2022, our total vaccination exemption request was at 361. Our medical vaccination exemption requests are at 38. Our religious vaccination exemption requests are at 283. And our medical religious vaccination exemption requests are at 37, with 3 of those requests being submitted but not specified. We have 28 rescinded vaccination exemption requests. 22 of those were religious, 3 were medical, and the remaining 3 were a medical-religious combination. To date, we have approved 57 vaccination exemption requests. 27 were medical, 16 religious, and 13 were medical-religious exemption approved. We denied 190 vaccination exemption requests, all of which denial letters have been sent out, sir. We also have 86 requested appeals. Again, the vaccination rate as of January 24th, 2022 is at 83.55%. To date, no one has been disciplined, including suspensions as well as reassignments to other agencies. The disciplinary process is described as follows. On October 25th, 2021, a report was run that identified those NDOC employees who were not fully vaccinated and consequently failed to comply with the mandate via our tracking mechanisms. The course of progressive discipline was as follows. On November 2nd, the internal NDOC report was run, and the issuance of the written reprimand for violation of the mandate was delivered by facility leadership on November 5th, 2021. NDOC held off on any further discipline until after the holidays. Now that we are in the new year, sir, NDOC will proceed with the following. January, February 2022, NDOC will begin and start the specificity of charges for suspension, which can take up to 30 days. And we're looking at a February, March 2022 specificity of charges for termination, sir. This discipline was the least aggressive, and please note that these timetables are in accordance with NDOC's progressive disciplinary timetable. In closing, I would like to reiterate that we appreciate our staff, as all of them were admittedly deemed essential personnel, and while the rest of the world was on total lockdown and some agencies still have not returned to their offices, they came to work in order to retain a sense of normalcy within our facilities by continuing to provide daily services and programming while maintaining the safety and security of our population. Although this is an extremely challenging time for NDOC, it should be noted that all of our staff are still going to be above and beyond every single day to make improvements to our division, facility, department, and state. That concludes my report, sir.
For the chief. Okay, hearing none, moving on. Office of Inspector General, Jones.
Governor Sisolak, we will pause on that and move to the next item, please.
Okay. Move on to number 12. Number 13, public comment. It's the second time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any area under control of this board, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, comment, be limited to 3 minutes.
Good morning again. My name is Patricia Atkinson.
Second,
I never pushed. Sorry. Good morning. My name is Patricia Adkison. I have appeared before this court and pointed out conduct implicating violations of our system of law, as well as the custom and practice of both the department and this board to ignore the safeguards of NRS 233B, known as the Nevada Administrative Procedures Act, when adopting regulations. At the April 20th, 2021 meeting, the department submitted Exhibit 10, acknowledging that the department does not have authority to approve a temporary AR, and that this board does not have authority to approve a permanent AR, and must first comply with 233B provision in order to bring about a lawful regulation. Despite this acknowledgement, the board met on October 25th, 2021, pursuant to the agenda and request of the department, and took action to approve temporary AR 258 without consideration of 233B provisions. This board's custom and practice to effectively rubber stamp the agenda established by the director, and it is a case of the tail wagging the dog, and does implicate an abuse of limited public resources, and at worst implicates violation of many related laws. The mishandling of AR 258 has been a slow-moving train wreck and a waste of resources, where NRS 233 provisions are again ignored. This is the tip of the iceberg, where the department has developed many de facto practices not approved by the board. The lack of meaningful oversight resulted in violations of our system of laws by the state officials should not be permitted to persist. I propose that the implementation of an independent office, such as the Office of Professional Responsibility, modeled after the office of same name, utilized by the Department of Public Safety as a means to safeguard the public interest, and also a fully funded staff for this board, in order to develop the agenda with the public input to ensure compliance with NRS 233B provisions, as well as all open meeting laws. Governor, I ask that you sponsor this proposal. Please take note of the requirements pursuant to NRS Chapter 241 to provide draft minutes of these meetings within 30 days. Otherwise, any action taken is invalid. The department never satisfies this law requirement and renders these meetings vulnerable to litigation, challenging the validity of any action. Governor, the public is your support, not the director, so I hope you take our concerns to heart. And I've also requested these draft minutes 3 months ago to Bill Coenga, and have yet even to get an email or response back. And I'd appreciate, a response email. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello again. And I believe still good morning. Sorry, I can't get my phone in there. Thank you. Hello, good morning again, members of the board. My name is Mark Betancourt for the record. During this comment, I'll be representing the Nevada Coalition Against the Death Penalty. I'm here simply to, again, reiterate the fact that the state is facing unprecedented staffing shortages. COVID-19 is continuing to spread through our prisons and jails while not truly providing incarcerated people who are in the care of the state adequate ways to prevent further spread of the virus. I ask the members of this board, how many masks do you use in a week? I use more than 2, I know for certain. And yet that's all we were providing day to day for these folks, reusing the same masks over and over again. But at the same time, for nearly 2 years, the state has been attempting to carry out the execution of Zane Floyd, a Marine Corps veteran with severe and profound mental illness, PTSD, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder from his mother using alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, and cigarettes during her pregnancy with him and during his childhood. And now the NDOC has been underprepared with an experimental cocktail using a drug that is primarily used in veterinary medicine to euthanize small animals that has been put forward. So I know this is not the responsibility of this body, but Governor Sisolak and Attorney General Ford, I know you both also sit on the Board of Pardons. I ask on March 22nd, you please consider the clemency plea of Zane Floyd and stop that potential state-sanctioned murder while we are still trying to sort out how to take care of our folks on a day-to-day basis who are incarcerated. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll be very brief. Christy Cavillo again. Director Daniels, with respect, 1 new mask a week is what my son has been receiving at High Desert. I also transcribe letters from inmates for Nevada Strong, and I have had letters come to me that state that there are some inmates are making their own masks. My son also has 2 kites in for the vaccine. No vaccine yet at all. 3 weeks ago, I called High Desert and I spoke to the nurse in medical. She finally answered. And I asked her, why has my son not gotten the vaccine yet? I'm terribly worried. And her response was, right now we're trying to get control of the virus. We'll deal with the vaccines later. What better way to deal with the virus than to give them the vaccine? I didn't understand that. Also, Deputy Director Williams, respectfully also, talking about the programs for the inmates. Again, I can speak personally about my son and what he has told me, that he has had a request in a kite for substance abuse help for over a year. He wants to make a clean break from that past life. And also, he's had a kite in for mental health counseling and has received absolutely none. And at this time, when they're on lockdown, mental health assistance, I think, is very much needed. So that's really all I have, and thank you for your time.
Good morning again. Quickly, 3 items that I did not address concerning operations, and 1 comment on behalf of the officers and staff. In all fairness, I don't understand why they are not receiving credit for overtime in their retirement. I believe that that's only fair. Number 2, please require NDOC to track and provide official death counts for the SO population, sex offender population. I've asked for years. They never even consider it. Number 3, allow friends and family, please, to send in DNA ancestry and health trait kits for our prisoners that will contribute to their mental health status, which she addressed so well, that Mr. Williams wrote to me and said, no, we're not allowing them to be sent in because of safety matters. I have no idea what safety matters they would present, but give them something to do and give them something to finally get grounded about concerning their ancestry, which I've heard many times before. Well, I don't know. I don't have any ancestry. I have no idea where I'm from. That would help to ground them and their mental health. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else down here in Las Vegas?
I just wanted to ask how the programs are up and running when all the...
You gotta identify yourself.
Oh, I'm
for the
Carol.
record.
For the record, my name is Carol, and I was just wondering how the programs are up and running when every single prison is understaffed.
Okay, they can't answer a question.
Oh,
We're
okay,
not interacting here. You can make a comment.
Okay, well, yeah, that's the only comment I have.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, again, my name is Sonia Williams. I'm going to continue the rest of my Eric story, I guess. I left off on December 13th, Eric died in High Desert. On the day he died, I was contacted by NDOC and told that I would need to contact the coroner in order to claim his body, and that an autopsy would be performed pursuant to NRS 209-3815. 3 weeks later, I was finally given an opportunity to ID Eric's body for the cremation process, and to my shock, no autopsy had been performed. I was told it was law by NDOC and that an autopsy was requested pursuant to this law. I immediately told the funeral home to pause the cremation and I started calling governor's office, attorney general's office, the inspector general, county commissioners, anybody, to find out why this law was not being upheld. Today, exactly 48 days after Eric died, Eric is still in a freezer. And NDOC's notice of Eric's death on their own website is a notice for a different inmate and has a third person's picture. From beginning to end, this is a circus. NDOC does not allow the ARs or statute. The compassionate release process, it does not follow the ARs or the statute. The compassionate release process is not understood by anyone and you provide no assistance in understanding it at the time when families are overwrought with stress. Sadly, this isn't unique. We have dozens of other families who have had the same experience. We ask you again, who holds them accountable to the law, Governor? Is it you? I am begging you for help, not just for me, but for the families facing medical neglect and compassionate release.
Thank you. Anyone else down here in Las Vegas?
My name is Brandon. I'm with the Nevada Coalition Against the Death Penalty. I have to ask, what is justice? Is killing a mentally ill man justice? I don't believe it is, and many other Nevadans agree with me. I'm here, like many others, to urge Governor Sisolak and Attorney General Ford to grant Zane Floyd a clemency hearing when the Board of Pardons meets in March. Please consider adding his clemency plea to that agenda and consider motion and clemency. He deserves treatment, not death, by an untested, unproven execution method. Please stop the execution of one of our country service people who never received the help and treatment he desperately needed.
Thank you.
Barbell Warren again. In the spirit of families first, I would like to acknowledge the letter read by the grandmother of the 15-year-old daughter who lost her father. I want to show respect that the officers are hardworking, that their intentions are probably good, but they need the support from their departments, from their people, from their employers to do the job that they need to do. So I want to say thank you for her. And I want to tag on to mental illness, which is one of the reasons why I believe my son is where he is at. Mental illness is a huge issue. It's so important to be dealt with in the prison system. I'm now very concerned and very focused on what needs to happen on re-entry when prisoners come home. And mental illness is the biggest issue there, and substance abuse. So in the case of Zane Floyd, I'd like to tag on to what Mark has mentioned and Brandon has mentioned. People with mental illness that had such severe mental illness should not be executed. I am for the abolishment of the death penalty. That's another issue. But I would like to speak until there's proper ways to execute someone, which they will never be. There should be no execution of people in my book. So I ask as well that you give it some consideration to set aside the execution of Zane Floyd. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in Las Vegas? I think we've gotten everybody twice. No? Okay, let's go to Carson City.
Good morning, Governor Sisolak and members of the commission. My name is Holly Wellborn. I'm the policy director for the ACLU of Nevada. I just wanted to comment on a few things that I heard today and some of the conclusions that I've made in listening to both the families of incarcerated individuals and the correctional staff that we heard from. I had a few conversations in the hall, and this is a time where we can really work and operate in solidarity and come together to find solutions to what has become a crisis in Nevada prisons, and a crisis that we predicted early on in the pandemic. We still maintain that decarceration is at least one solution to the problems that we are facing. Not just a grand release of a bunch of people who are currently incarcerated, but to also help with some of these staffing issues. There are other solutions that we can look at as well, and some of which we heard about today. We can't be certain where this virus is going to take us. We don't know what will happen with the next variant, whether it will be more dangerous, less dangerous, but everyone is suffering. Everyone around that table down there in Las Vegas, the correction staff that are up here, the families that you have heard from. At minimum, my proposal is to reconvene family meetings and families of correctional officers who are currently working in prisons, to continue meetings with the COVID-19 response staff. I think that is a necessary next step, so we can have some of these conversations before coming to these meetings so they can be more productive and we can have some solutions. So I want to thank everyone who has shared their stories today, and I look forward to continuing those conversations with the correction staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Anita Pedersen, PED, ERSON. Doesn't seem like there's going to be any resolve to any of this anytime soon. Just listening to, I would like to hear more from Charles Daniels at some point. Maybe he could make some kind of statement for the news. Seems like there's something that can be done. I'm confident then, and it's evident that you're not capable of handling the staffing shortages. Just little notes I made: quit hiding behind the virus, make programs for the inmates. Mental health can also be handled by allowing them to gather for their spiritual services and to pray together. A lot of these men are God-fearing. Give them something else besides lockdown. I'm very happy to hear that you're successful with your Wild Horse Ranch project. Little pat on the back there, I guess, never hurts. Would be nice if you could put some of these men to work and let them feel productive instead of the 24/7 lockdown. We can't hide behind this forever. And just a comment, the word on the street is that the NDOC bought up hydrochloroquine when it was very popular, and not one inmate was it administered to. I'd like that to be addressed at some point. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Do we have anybody else in Northern Nevada?
Hi, my name is Kellen Prost, and I am an infection control nurse at NNCC. I just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the non-custody staff and how dangerous the facilities are becoming. I've been working for the NDOC for a little over 7 years, and I've never seen the staffing this bad for both custody and non-custody. I have never felt so unsafe walking within the walls of the NNCC. When walking through the yard, I just look around and I don't see any officers in sight, and the towers are unmanned. And obviously due to our short staffing. The units, including lockdown units, are incredibly unsafe, with one officer on the floor with a bubble officer that's on his or her 4th or 5th 16-hour shift. Non-custody staff are untrained in how to defend ourselves, so if something happens to the only officer on the floor, then we're in big trouble. Inmates are becoming more bold with their defiance, and it's only a matter of time before something really bad happens to a staff member. So to make this short, I'm really just asking for help for all of our staff before we either lose everyone to other jobs or something terrible happens. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all, Governor.
Thank you. I didn't know, do we have any electronic public comment? Was there any telephonic comment? No? Okay, hearing none.
Everything was emailed prior.
Sorry. Okay, got it. We got all those. Thank you. Okay, hearing no more, I'm going to close public comment. Item number 14 is adjournment. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.